Hello Duke fans. How Caleb Foster from Duke was a warrior in the victory over Tech. He's a veteran leader at Duke and was a key piece in the win. Let's see more news, but first subscribe to the channel and keep receiving more Duke news. The link is in the description to subscribe and you'll continue receiving more news after subscribing. Let's go! Duke basketball continues to build a season that can no longer be considered a coincidence. The 72-58 victory over Virginia Tech away from home was not just another solid result on the calendar. It was confirmation of a team that knows how to suffer, compete, and decide when the game demands maturity. With the victory, the program reached a 20-1 overall record and maintained its perfect ACC campaign, now at 9-0, numbers that place Jon Scheyer's team at a level of consistency rare even by Duke's historical standards. The game in Blacksburg had a familiar script, but demanding execution. Duke largely controlled the first half, dictating the pace, imposing defense, and even opening up a 16-point lead. The game reading was clear. When the team manages to transform defense into emotional control, it begins to decide how the opponent will play. Virginia Tech, however, reacted before halftime and showed why it had been competitive in the conference, reducing the difference and taking the duel to a more physical and tense second half. After halftime, the scenario remained tight for long minutes. The score remained tight, the pressure from the home crowd increased, and the game demanded something more than raw talent. It was in this context that Duke did what has been its main hallmark this season. It held firm defensively, withstood the adverse moment, and waited for the right moment to finish the game. When that moment arrived, in the final minutes, the blue team simply shut the door. Virginia Tech scored only 2 points in the last 6 minutes, a direct reflection of Duke's defensive intensity and collective reading of the game. Within this context, Caleb Foster's performance takes on special weight. The veteran point guard entered the court dealing with an illness that, in many scenarios, would justify absence or severe limitation. For the first time this season, Foster came off the bench, but this did not diminish his influence in any way. On the contrary, he offered exactly what this game demanded. He had 7 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, numbers that don't stand out in isolation, but which gain enormous relevance when placed within the flow of the game. Foster was the type of player who appears when the game threatens to get out of control. His perimeter defense was crucial in curbing Virginia Tech's momentum, especially when the score still allowed for any kind of comeback. His defensive reading, communication, and positioning showed why he is seen internally as a benchmark. Even without being in peak physical condition, he assumed the role of the team's emotional organizer, something that cannot be taught in training and doesn't appear in traditional statistics. Jon Scheyer made a point of acknowledging this after the game, highlighting not only Foster's individual effort but also the group's competitive spirit. The coach emphasized that winning in the ACC invariably comes down to defense and the willingness to compete at a high level, especially away from home. The way Duke limited Virginia Tech to 42% field goal percentage and only 27% from three-point range illustrates this identity that has been consolidated throughout the season. There is also a symbolic aspect to this victory. Duke came into the game dealing with significant physical concerns, including the condition of Dame Sarr, another defensive pillar. Still, the team didn't make excuses or adjust its ambitions. They took to the court with the same attitude that has marked this recent run, in which 6 of their last 7 wins were by double digits and 3 of the last 4 by margins exceeding 20 points. Even when the score doesn't reflect absolute dominance, as was the case against Virginia Tech, the feeling is one of structural control of the game. What we see in Duke basketball right now is a team that understands its own path to victory. It doesn't depend solely on inspired offensive performances, but on a solid defensive foundation, internal leadership, and players willing to sacrifice when the situation demands it. Caleb Foster embodied all of that in this victory. He played sick, accepted a different role, impacted the game where it was most needed, and helped seal another important result in the team's journey. With 20 wins and undefeated in the ACC, Duke not only accumulates impressive numbers, but reinforces, game after game, the feeling that it is prepared for the bigger challenges to come. And what do you think? Comment.